3 ingredients. Combined cost under $20. Pool professionals have been using this combination on their best residential accounts for 4 decades, while charging clients for specialty products they were not actually using. The formula is not a trade secret. It is not proprietary chemistry. It is 3 commodity compounds available in the grocery store and hardware store that together handle the majority of what a residential pool needs to stay clear, balanced, and safe through an entire summer season. The 3 ingredients are plain unscented bleach, baking soda, and muriatic acid. 1. Chlorine, alkalinity, and pH. The 3 most frequently needed chemical corrections in any residential pool, available for a combined cost that is 70 to 80% less than the pool store equivalent. But before you write these down and head to the store, there is one condition that determines whether this formula works correctly or fails entirely. Your cyanuric acid level. If CYA is above 70 ppm, bleach added to your pool will be largely inactive regardless of how correctly everything else is managed. Check that number first. 1. This video tells you exactly how and what to do based on what you find. Here is what this video covers: what each of the 3 ingredients does and does not do, the safety requirements before handling any of them, the exact dose for your pool size, the sequence that makes the formula work, the 3 mistakes that waste money or create new problems, and the realistic results you should expect in the first 2 weeks. What the 3 ingredients do, and the one thing none of them can do alone. Plain unscented bleach is sodium hypochlorite at 6 to 8.25% concentration. It is the same active compound as liquid pool chlorine at 10 to 12.5%. Lower concentration, proportionally more volume needed, meaningfully lower cost per unit of active chlorine. Bleach sanitizes, oxidizes organic waste, and kills algae cells. It does all of this identically to liquid pool chlorine because it is liquid pool chlorine at a different concentration with a different label. What bleach cannot do, it cannot protect itself from UV destruction without adequate cyanuric acid in the water. 1. Without CYA at 30 to 50 ppm, midday summer sun destroys 50 to 90% of a bleach addition before it can fully circulate and work. This is the single most important variable determining how long your chlorine lasts between additions. More on this in the CYA section below. Baking soda is sodium bicarbonate. It raises and stabilizes total alkalinity, the chemical buffer that holds pH in a narrow range between corrections. Without adequate alkalinity at 80 to 120 ppm, pH swings freely every day driven by aeration, swimmer load, rain, and chemical additions. 1 FH swings mean chlorine effectiveness fluctuates dramatically hour to hour. Stable alkalinity means pH holds. pH holds, and every dollar of bleach you add works consistently from morning to evening, instead of at full effectiveness at 8 a.m. and degraded effectiveness by 2 p.m. What baking soda cannot do, it cannot raise chlorine, fix CYA, or clear a green pool. It sets the chemical foundation that allows everything else to work correctly. Without that foundation in place, bleach and muriatic acid are both fighting against a moving target. Muriatic acid from the hardware store lowers pH. 1 at pH 7.4 to 7.6. Roughly 50% of free chlorine exists as hypochlorous acid, the active sanitizing form. At pH 8.0, that drops to approximately 25%. At pH 8.2, it falls below 15%. The same chlorine reading on your test strip at pH 8.2 represents less than a third of the sanitizing power it represents at pH 7.5. Muriatic acid is the tool that keeps pH in the range where every dollar of bleach you add is working at full potential rather than sitting largely inactive in high pH water. 1. What muriatic acid cannot do. It cannot sanitize, it cannot raise alkalinity that has been overcorrected, and it requires careful handling that the other 2 ingredients do not. More on that in the safety section immediately below. Together, these 3 do something none of them accomplishes alone. They create a pool where chlorine is added at the right concentration, works in water at the right pH, and is protected from UV destruction by adequate CYA. 1. That combination, not any single product, is what produces the pool that holds chemistry consistently through summer without emergency treatments, service calls, or weekly pool store visits. Safety before anything else. What you need to know before opening any of these. All 3 ingredients require basic precautions. None of them are as hazardous as the warnings on pool store specialty products imply, but skipping the safety steps creates real risks. Read this section before buying anything. Bleach. Store away from heat and direct sunlight. 1. Never mix with ammonia-based products, other chlorine products, or acids. If bleach contacts pool shock in concentrated form, the reaction produces chlorine gas. Keep them physically separated in storage and never add them to the pool in the same location at the same time. Add bleach with the pump running and away from the skimmer. Baking soda. Lowest hazard of the 3 standard. Handling with no special precautions beyond keeping it dry in storage. 1. Do not add directly in front of return jets, because concentrated undissolved baking soda can temporarily affect local pH readings before it distributes. Muriatic acid, the one ingredient requiring genuine caution every single time. Always wear eye protection and closed shoes when handling. Always dilute in a bucket of pool water before adding to the pool. Add acid to water, never water to acid. Pour slowly at the deep end of the pool away from skimmer, lights and metal fittings with the pump running. Add in stages and retest between additions. Never add more than 16 ounces to a 10,000-gallon pool at once without retesting first. Store separately from other pool chemicals in a well-ventilated location. The pool store sells dry acid as a safer alternative. Muriatic acid from the hardware store is what professionals use because it is faster and more cost-effective, but it demands respect every time it comes off the shelf. Know your pool volume before dosing any of these. Every dose calculation in this video depends on gallons. If you have not calculated your pool volume, do it before buying anything. 1 rectangle. Length times width times average depth times 7.5. Oval. Length times width times average depth times 5.9. Round diameter times average depth times 5.9. Write the number down. Keep it with your test kit. Check CYA first, the number that determines whether the formula works. Before adding any of the 3 ingredients, test cyanuric acid with a drop test kit, not a strip. 1 strips are unreliable on CYA, and an inaccurate reading here causes owners to either add stabilizer to a pool that already has too much or to run the formula in water where bleach will be destroyed faster than it can work. Target CYA range is 30 to 50 ppm. Here is what each result means. Below 30 ppm, UV is destroying a significant portion of every bleach addition you make. Adding CYA is recommended before running the formula. Buy cyanuric acid granules at the pool store. There is no grocery store equivalent. Add through the skimmer with the pump running. Wait 48 hours before retesting since CYA dissolves slowly. Do not add more before the 48-hour retest. Owners who retest at 24 hours see no change and add a second dose frequently overshoot to 80 or 90 ppm. Add your calculated dose, wait the full 48 hours between 30 and 50 ppm. CYA is correct. The formula applies fully. Proceed between 50 and 70 ppm, elevated but manageable. Do not add more. CYA monitor monthly. The formula still applies. Bleach will work adequately at this CYA level. Plan a small dilution if CYA climbs above 70 ppm chlorine lock territory. 1 bleach added to this water is increasingly inactive. Adding more bleach will not solve your chlorine problem. The formula cannot work correctly until CYA is back in range. Partial drain and refill, 25 to 30% of pool volume before proceeding. A pool at 90 ppm CYA drops to approximately 63 ppm after a 30% dilution. A pool at 120 ppm needs 2 dilution cycles. Retest after each cycle before adding any chemistry. If you have been running trichlor tablets as your primary chlorine source all season, assume CYA is elevated until you test it. Every trichlor tablet adds stabilizer. 1 by August, many tablet-fed pools are at 80 to 100 ppm CYA without the owner knowing. This is the hidden cause of the chlorine isn't working problem that pool stores sell specialty products to address without ever testing CYA first. The exact doses calculated for your pool size, not a universal amount. Every number below is for a 10,000-gallon pool. Scale linearly for your pool size. A 15,000-gallon pool uses 1.5 times these amounts. A 20,000-gallon pool uses twice these amounts. Baking soda doses. To raise total alkalinity by 10 ppm, 1.5 pounds. 1 to raise total alkalinity by 20 ppm, 3 pounds. To raise total alkalinity by 40 ppm, 6 pounds. Add in 2 stages. Add half your calculated dose. Broadcast across the surface with the pump running. Wait 4 hours. Retest alkalinity. Add the second half if needed. Overshooting above 120 ppm makes pH adjustment difficult in both directions. 2-stage addition with retesting prevents that. muriatic acid doses to lower pH by 0.1 units, approximately 4 to 6 ounces, to lower pH by 0.2 units, approximately 8 to 12 ounces, to lower pH by 0.4 units, approximately 16 to 20 ounces. 1. Always dilute in a bucket first. Add in stages. Test between additions. These are starting estimates. Pool volume, current alkalinity level, and water temperature all affect the actual pH response. Start conservative and add more based on the retest result. Bleach doses. To raise free chlorine by 1 ppm using 6% bleach, 21 ounces. To raise free chlorine by 2 ppm, 42 ounces. Daily maintenance dose for most summer pools, 21 to 42 ounces added at dusk. Weekly shock dose, approximately 2 gallons at dusk after heavy use weeks. 1 post-party or heavy bather load shock, 2 to 3 gallons at dusk. Run pump overnight. Test at dawn. These doses assume 6% bleach. If your bleach is 8.25%, multiply the 6% dose by 0.73 to get the equivalent amount. If it is labeled at 7.5%, multiply by 0.80. Always check the concentration on the label and adjust accordingly. Now, before the step-by-step method, if you want these doses in a printable reference with the complete seasonal guide, the Pool Carter Playbook, from green to crystal clear. 139 pages covering the complete grocery store method with dose charts for every pool size. The full SLAM process for green pools, a printable weekly routine, and the 5 numbers that run your pool all summer. Normally $67, right now $29.99. 7-day money-back guarantee, instant PDF download, link is below this video. The step-by-step method in the exact sequence that makes it work. Step 1. Test all 5 numbers before touching any chemical. Free chlorine, pH, total alkalinity, CYA, and calcium hardness. Drop test kit for accuracy on alkalinity and CYA. 1 strips for the daily quick check on chlorine and pH. Write every number down before making any correction decision. This sequence of what to correct depends on what all 5 say together. Step 2. Correct alkalinity first if it is below 80 ppm. Calculate the dose for your pool size and target level. Add baking soda in 2 stages with a 4-hour retest between. Do not proceed to step 3 until alkalinity has stabilized in the 80 to 120 ppm range. This is the step most owners skip and the one that determines whether everything else works or keeps failing. Step 3. Correct pH after alkalinity is stable. If pH is above 7.6, add muriatic acid diluted in a bucket of pool water. Add to the deep end slowly with the pump running. Stage the additions and retest between each one. Target is 7.4 to 7.6. If pH is below 7.4, add borax, available separately from the laundry aisle to raise it. Do not add chlorine until pH is in range. Step 4. Add bleach at dusk. Never in the morning, never in the afternoon. At dusk, when UV is off the water and the full dose can work through the night at maximum effectiveness. 1 pour around the perimeter away from the skimmer. Confirm the pump is running. This evening addition habit is as important as the dose. A correctly calculated bleach addition at 2 p.m. in August loses a significant portion of its effectiveness before it can complete its work. Step 5. Test free chlorine the following morning. The morning reading tells you whether the dose held overnight and what the pool needs for the coming day. Free chlorine below 2 ppm at dawn means adding bleach again at dusk. In range means the dose was correct and the conditions are working. This morning read is the feedback loop that calibrates every subsequent addition. Step 6. Shock once per week at dusk regardless of whether the water looks off. 2 gallons of 6% bleach per 10,000 gallons after any week with significant bather load. Pre-dissolve in a bucket before pouring. Run the pump through the night. Test at dawn. If chlorine dropped near 0 by morning, shock again the following dusk. The organic load from a heavy use week was higher than 1 dose handled. The 3 mistakes that waste money or create new problems. Mistake 1. Adding bleach in the morning. 1. This is the timing error that makes pool owners conclude bleach does not work as well as pool store liquid chlorine. It is not the product, it is the timing. Bleach added at 9 a.m. in July under direct summer sun loses 50 to 90% of its effectiveness to UV destruction before it has finished circulating. The owner sees lower than expected chlorine at the afternoon test and adds more, paying for a second dose to make up for what the sun took from the first one. Switch all bleach additions to dusk and the same product delivers dramatically different results. Same jug, same dose. 1 different time. This single habit change reduces total bleach consumption by 30 to 50% for most summer pools. Mistake 2. Correcting pH without testing and fixing alkalinity first. A pool with total alkalinity at 60 ppm cannot hold a pH correction. There is no buffer to stabilize it. Muriatic acid lowers pH correctly on Monday. By Wednesday, pH has drifted back above 7.8 because the force is pushing it. Aeration, bather load, chemical additions are not being buffered by adequate alkalinity. More acid goes in. Alkalinity drops further with each acid addition. pH continues drifting. One more product. Same cycle. The owner spends $80 to $100 per season on pH down, chasing a problem that $6 of baking soda addresses at the root. Test alkalinity every week. Fix it before touching pH. This single correction eliminates the most common recurring expense in residential pool chemistry. Mistake 3. Using scented or additive bleach. This cannot be overstated because the consequences range from cosmetic to chemistry disrupting. Scented bleach adds fragrance compounds that create persistent foam in pool water. One Splash Guard bleach contains surfactants that interfere with water surface tension and chemistry readings. Outdoor bleach formulations may contain additional compounds not suited for pool water. The label must read sodium hypochlorite as the only active ingredient, not the primary active ingredient, the only one. Check every time you buy a new container because manufacturers occasionally reformulate products without changing the packaging. Significantly, one jug of the wrong bleach does not ruin a pool, but it does create problems that take time and additional product to resolve. 1. The cost comparison, 40 years of professional savings explained. Pool professionals using the 3-ingredient formula on residential accounts were not doing so out of a commitment to client savings. They were doing it because commodity chemistry bought in volume and applied correctly costs a fraction of specialty pool products, which improves their margin without reducing water quality. The client paid for specialty products, the professional bought commodity ingredients. The difference was profit. 1. Here is what that 40-year margin looks like in reverse, as savings for the homeowner who makes the switch directly. Liquid pool chlorine at $8 per gallon, 2 gallons per week for 20 weeks, $320. Plain unscented bleach at the equivalent active chlorine dose, approximately $208. Saving on chlorine alone per season, $112. Pool store alkalinity increaser at $5 per pound, 6 pounds per season, $30. Grocery store baking soda at $1 per pound, same 6 pounds, $6. Saving on alkalinity per season, $24. Pool store pH down at $22 per bottle, 4 purchases per season, $88. One hardware store muriatic acid at $10 per gallon, covering 4 seasons of typical use, $250 per season equivalent. Saving on pH reduction per season, $85.50. Pool store pH up at $15 per bottle, 4 purchases per season, $60. Grocery store borax at $6 per box, covering a full season, $6. Saving on pH raising per season, $54. Weekly algazited at $20 per bottle, 12 weeks, $240. Correct chlorine and pH management, replacing algazited entirely. 0 GAPAR, saving on algazid per season, $240. One total saving from the 3-ingredient formula plus borax and algazide elimination. Approximately $515 per season for a typical 15,000-gallon residential pool. Across 10 years of pool ownership, $5,150 in savings from knowing what 3 grocery store and hardware store products can do and using them in the correct sequence. That is the 40-year professional advantage available to every homeowner who reads the active ingredient on the back of the pool store bottle instead of the product name on the front. What realistic results look like and when to expect them. 1 days 1 through 3. The alkalinity correction stabilizes. pH swings less dramatically between the morning and afternoon test. If alkalinity was significantly below range, the improvement in pH stability is often noticeable within the first few days as the buffer begins absorbing the forces that were previously moving pH freely. Days 4 through 7, chlorine holding time begins extending. A pool that was dropping from 3 ppm to near 0 in 24 hours may now drop to 1.5 to 2 ppm in the same period. 1. The combination of stable pH and correct CYA means each bleach addition is working at higher efficiency for longer. The result is not 0 chlorine consumption. It is chlorine consumption that is proportional to the sanitizing work being done rather than inflated by pH inefficiency and UV loss. Weeks 2 through 4, the system reaches steady state. Chlorine additions required per week are lower than before the correction. pH corrections are less frequent. The weekly brush and daily morning test keep the pool from drifting far enough in any direction to require significant intervention. 1. This is the state the formula produces when all three ingredients are working together on correctly established chemistry. What should not be expected, an overnight transformation, if the pool has been running on degraded chemistry for weeks. High CYA that requires dilution adds days to the timeline before improvement becomes visible. Filtration problems, a dirty filter, inadequate pump run time are not fixed by chemistry corrections and must be addressed separately before the formula can deliver its full result. 1. The honest benchmark at the 4-week mark. A pool running the 3-ingredient formula correctly for 1 month costs less in chemistry, requires fewer emergency interventions, and produces more consistent water quality than the same pool running the reactive pool store approach. Not dramatic in any single week, consistent across every week. That consistency is what the formula delivers, and what the pool store approach has never consistently produced. Why pool professionals kept this formula to themselves for 40 years, and what that silence actually cost you. 1. The professional who services 40 pools a week is not running 40 different chemistry programs. They are running one program on 40 pools using the same handful of commodity compounds that handle everything a residential pool needs. The variation is in the dose and the sequence based on each pool's specific numbers. The products are the same across every account. What varies is what those professionals charge for. The service invoice shows liquid chlorine, pH adjustment product, alkalinity treatment, and specialty shock. 1. The actual products going into the pool are bleach, baking soda, muriatic acid, and Cal Hyposhock bought in bulk at wholesale prices. The margin between what was purchased and what was billed is where the 40-year advantage lived, not in chemistry expertise, in sourcing. This is not unique to pool care. The same dynamic runs in every service industry where the materials cost is a fraction of the total invoice and the client has no visibility into what was actually used. HVAC refrigerant charged at retail markup. Auto repair parts invoiced at list price while purchased at wholesale. One pool chemistry billed as specialty products while sourced as commodity compounds. The markup is the business model. The information gap between what the professional buys and what the client pays for is the margin. The homeowner who discovers the 3-ingredient formula does not displace the professional's expertise. They displace the professional's sourcing advantage. The actual chemistry knowledge, what to correct, when, and in what sequence, is what this channel provides. The sourcing decision, grocery store and hardware store instead of pool store, is what changes the receipt. Both pieces together produce the 40-year professional result at residential self-management cost. The 3-ingredient formula handles chlorine, alkalinity, and pH correction. Adding borax from the laundry aisle adds a fourth function that the 3 ingredients alone do not provide: ongoing pH stability between corrections. Baking soda creates an alkalinity buffer that resists pH swings broadly. Borax creates a borate buffer that specifically resists the upward pH push from aeration, the single most consistent force moving residential pool pH out of range every day in summer. 1. Together they provide 2 independent buffering systems that hold pH steadier than either one produces alone. The practical result of adding borax to the 3-ingredient formula: pH corrections needed per week drop noticeably for most pools. A pool that needed muriatic acid twice a week before the borate system was established may need it once every 10 to 14 days after. The muriatic acid is still used when needed. It is just needed less often because the buffer is absorbing what would previously have required a correction. 1. To add borax to the formula, add it once at the start of the season at 20 pounds per 10,000 gallons. Broadcast with the pump running, correct pH afterward with muriatic acid. Since borax raises pH by approximately 0.5 units at the full setup dose, retest the following morning. Mid-season top-up of 5 to 8 pounds per 10,000 gallons restores the level after water loss from backwashing and splash out. A borate test strip confirms the level since standard drop test kits do not measure borates. Cost of adding borax to the formula, $12 to $18 for the initial setup, $3 to $5 for the mid-season top-up. Total annual borax cost after the first season, under $10. The reduction in muriatic acid and pH up purchases from more stable pH management typically pays for the borax addition cost within the first 2 to 3 weeks of the season. The 3-ingredient formula produces its best results in a pool with filtration running correctly. In a pool with filtration problems, correct chemistry improves water safety, but does not produce the visual clarity that correctly maintained chemistry in a well-filtered pool delivers. Know the difference between a chemistry problem and a filtration problem before concluding the formula is underperforming. A chemistry problem produces water that tests incorrectly on one or more of the 5 numbers. A filtration problem produces water that tests correctly on all 5 numbers but still looks hazy, dull, or slightly cloudy. If your chemistry is right and your water is not clear, the filter is almost always the next place to look. Check pressure first. Every filter has a normal operating range. 8 to 10 psi above normal means the filter is full and flow is restricted. 1A filter running at high pressure is turning the water over more slowly than the pump is rated for, which means suspended particles spend more time in the pool and less time getting captured. Backwash the sand filter, hose the cartridge filter thoroughly, every pleat top to bottom, not a rinse. Add fresh DE after backwashing a DE filter. For cartridge filter owners specifically, mid-season oil fouling is the hidden filtration problem that hose cleaning cannot fix. Sunscreen and body lotion accumulate in the filter plits across weeks of heavy use and create a film that blocks flow even on a filter that looks visually clean. An overnight soak in diluted filter cleaner or a solution of 1 part muriatic acid to 20 parts water strips that film and restores the flow rate that hose cleaning cannot recover. Pool owners who do this once mid-season consistently describe it as the most visible single improvement in water clarity they made all summer. Not a chemistry change, a filter maintenance step that costs nothing but time. Run time is the second filtration variable. 1 hour of pump run time for every 10 degrees of air temperature is the working rule. At 90 degrees, that is 9 to 10 hours minimum every day. Not most days. A pump running 5 hours in 95-degree August heat is giving algae and suspended particles 16 hours of warm, still water per day. The chemistry correction that would have kept the water clear in a properly circulated pool cannot overcome 16 hours of inadequate circulation. Increase run time before concluding the formula needs adjustment. If you have owned a pool for more than 5 years, run this calculation. Estimate your average annual pool chemistry spend including service, products, and emergency treatments. Multiply by the number of years you have owned the pool. Write the number down. Now calculate what the 3-ingredient formula plus the borax system would have cost for the same period. Bleach at grocery store prices, baking soda at grocery store prices, muriatic acid at hardware store prices, borax at laundry aisle prices, 1 pool store trip per season for CYA, bulk cal hypo, and a drop test kit. Multiply by the same number of years. The gap between those two numbers is the cost of the information that was on the back of the pool store bottle the entire time. Not the information that required professional training or specialized access. The information that required reading the active ingredient instead of the product name. That gap, for a pool owner who has spent 10 years with a service tech and regular pool store visits, typically runs between $5,000 and $15,000 depending on pool size and service frequency. That number is not meant to produce regret. Previous seasons are spent. The useful response is not frustration at the past, but a different decision starting now. The pool store visit that has been on the schedule for this weekend costs what it costs regardless of what this video says. The one after that does not have to. The grocery store trip that replaces it costs a fraction of the amount for the identical chemistry. The system that runs correctly from here forward costs $150 to $200 per season, regardless of how long the previous system ran at 10 times the price. The conversation with the pool store 20 years ago that nobody had was simple. What is the active ingredient in this product, and where else can I buy it? That question asked at the counter, answered honestly, would have sent most pool owners to the grocery store the same afternoon. It was never asked because nothing about the pool store environment encouraged it. The product names, the specialty framing, the professional context, the water test printout recommending specific SKUs, All of it discouraged the question that a label on the back of the bottle answered for free. Ask it now. One for every pool store product you currently buy. Flip the container. Read the active ingredient. Then decide whether the grocery store 2 miles away has the same compound for less. In most cases, it does. In the cases where it does not, CYA, Cal Hyposhock, a quality drop test kit, the pool store earns the purchase. For everything else, the laundry aisle and the hardware store have been waiting 40 years for you to notice. They were there. Everything above works because of one 2-minute habit, the morning test. Free chlorine and pH every morning with a test strip before anything else. Not every other day. Not on the days when the water looks off. Every morning in July and August without exception. The morning test is what converts the 3-ingredient formula from a one-time correction into a permanent system. The formula corrects the foundational chemistry. The morning test maintains it by catching any drift while it is still a 2-minute correction rather than a weekend recovery project. A chlorine reading of 1.5 ppm on Wednesday morning means a bleach addition Wednesday evening. The pool is back to 3 ppm by Thursday morning. No gap wide enough for algae. No recovery needed. The same 1.5 ppm reading discovered on Saturday when the water has been visually off since Thursday means shock treatment, extended pump run time, and potentially 3 days of recovery before the water is clear enough to swim in comfortably. Same chemistry gap, different discovery timing, 2 minutes every morning is the difference between those two outcomes every single time. The professionals who used this formula on residential accounts for 40 years were not doing anything chemically sophisticated. They were testing consistently, correcting in sequence, and using inexpensive commodity products that worked at full effectiveness because the foundational conditions were maintained correctly. The formula is available to every pool owner today. So is the morning test habit. Both are required. Neither works as well without the other. Drop the number that has been giving you the most trouble this season in the comments. Alkalinity, pH, CYA, or chlorine. Someone else reading that comment starts their diagnostic from a more informed place. Every video on this channel works the same way. Run real numbers, no sponsors, no pool store upsell. If that is useful to you, subscribe. This channel reads the water, not the marketing.